Topic is preparing for the storm, lessons learned from Tropical Storm Irene on planning for resiliency and local infrastructure. There's that word resiliency that Tony Flint told us actually does resonate with the public, so we hope it resonates with you as well. I'm Heidi Ritchie. I'm with Mass Audubon, Shaping the Future of Your Community program that provides support, technical assistance, and workshops to local citizens, trying to encourage them to work with all of you in local planning and land use regulation. And we have three speakers today. Carrie Banks from the Division of Ecological Restoration, Bob Dean, who's with the Franklin County
Regional Council of Governments.
Regional Council of Governments, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
for watching that, and also Selectman in the town of Buckland, which was heavily impacted by Irene, and Patrick Garner with Patrick Garner Associates, and he's also president of the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions. So Pat Garner is a hydrologist and a scientist, and he's level 101 on rivers. What I encounter over and over again is that the general public perception of the problems with flooding is straighten that river and get the water downstream faster, and that's going to solve the problem, at least for us, if not for our downstream neighbors who are going to be recipients of all that water. But that really doesn't take into account how rivers actually function. So Pat's going to give us a little primer in that and some thoughts on how that relates also to the regulatory scheme, which can at times be challenging, but I think is moving in the direction towards more resilient approaches that are also better for the rivers and the fisheries, et cetera.
So again, Pat Garner. How many of you have seen the recent iteration of the Chickley River? Okay, I've got a couple photographs of before and after Chickley. So I'm heading toward that sort of at the end of the Chickley River is in the lovely small town of Foley, which Bob runs. They moved very quickly, and perhaps they moved a little too quickly. And we'll take a look at what they did. But, so I'm going to sort of deal with some of the technical stuff on an overview level. I'll try not to be too detailed, but I'll show you what we look at, how we analyze watersheds when we look at rivers. So this is out of the Wetland Protection Act. The river is defined as any natural flowing body of water that empties into an ocean-linked pond or other river and which flows throughout the year. So that's a perennial river. Now let's dig down a little bit. We think of rivers in terms of watershed areas. And obviously small rivers have small watersheds. Big, large rivers like the Connecticut or the Deerfield have relatively massive watersheds. And the components for watershed areas are area, the superficial geology, which is the underlying soils, whether they're tills or sands and what combination. And then we get into land use considerations, which is where you guys spend most of your time. These various factors influence what happens within the river. That's the percentage of impervious cover, vegetative characteristics, and then ultimately stormwater management is driven by those. And then last, we look at floodplain functions. We, of course, try these days, this decade and the decade before this, to maintain natural conditions, preserve habitat, and preserve human communities. So this is a typical watershed area, and the blue line running around here is the boundary of that. This low point right here with the triangle is the drainage point. So water would flow through this watershed out this way. And the edge of the watershed area is defined by elevation. So it would be lower here and lower here, and this would be the high point. And similarly, this would be, I'm doing this sideways, so you have to bear with me. This would be a high point, and it would be lower on this side and lower here. So that as water fell on this bowl, essentially, it would hit this high point and roll down through here. So that's sort of the basic of the watershed. And this is imposed on USGS quad map. This is looking at superficial geology again. In this case, the brown areas are glacial till, and the lighter areas are sands and gravel. And this is important when you're analyzing the amount of flow that's going to come through a watershed, because sands and gravel act as storage areas. They act like a sponge, essentially. And the more sand and gravel you have, the larger capacity you're going to have to be able to hold precipitation within the watershed. Areas of till tend to shed water very rapidly. This is another look at a watershed area that is superimposed on an aerial photograph. These are the sort of tools that I presume you guys work with regularly. Again, this would be the low point. This would be the high point over here, water is running through here. The white line being the overall watershed area. Again, superficial geology plays a key role in the sort of analysis we do. And again, they're defined as tills and stratified drift. And all of these have been laid down by glacial activity roughly 12 to 14,000 years ago. We used to believe that the glaciers came through about 10,000 years ago. More recent science indicates that they actually did about 12 to 14,000 years ago. As the glaciers left New England, there were very violent wind and various water processes that took place before the area became vegetated again. The wind carried all sorts of loose soils around that we call loess. And all of these processes help form the underlying soils that we have now. I note that glaciers have moved repeatedly over the landscape. The last glacier we had, the last great glacier, was the fourth over a period of several 100,000 years. They're going back and forth over our area. This is a sort of a classic little cross-section glacier, and these are the various features that come out of these. A lot of these underlie what we normally deal with: an esker, a drumlin, moraine, which is the edge of the glacier as a beginning melt back, various kettle holes. All of these features are things that we look at all the time now. So we're essentially in New England, we don't have, in terms of geological time, a static landscape. We have a very active landscape. And interestingly, to hydrologists, our rivers are considered to be very new. Unlike rivers that are in the western part of the United States that may be hundreds of thousands of years old, ours are 10 to 15,000 years old. So, land use considerations, urbanization, wonderful term. So clearly urbanization has changed the character and functions of almost all the rivers that we have in Massachusetts. One of the favorite statistics I kept around a lot is that we have more than 3,000 dams in the state. It's very difficult to find a stream of any size that hasn't been dammed at one point in the state. Urbanization increases impervious area, increases vegetative cover, and then through our own drainage systems, stormwater is transported in the rivers. The takeaway is that the transport occurs far more quickly than it would under what we call pre-development conditions or under natural conditions. These affect rivers, and they affect ultimately the various structures that we use to sort of manage stormwater. So what are the hydrologic responses? We have increased discharge. We have increased peak discharge. We have increased velocities. And there's a shorter time to peak flow. We have increased bank flow events. We have increased flooding. There's a lower base flow, and by base flow I mean there's a lower amount of precipitation that is held and underlying soils. The rainwater is shed more quickly. And of course, consequently, there's less groundwater discharge. So the graphic is a very simplified version that shows the quantity or the amount of flow versus time. And under pre-urban or natural conditions, the lower curve is typical, and under urban conditions, once a site is developed, you have a very different graph. And so what's happening is that this is peaking sooner in terms of time, and it's peaking far higher. And all of our stormwater measures, particularly in Massachusetts, are an attempt to bring the changes that we're imposing on the landscape back down to pre-development conditions. This is a graph that shows the frequency of bankflow conditions under urbanization. This was developed by a planner named Schuler in Maryland. This goes back into, I think, the late 1980s. Bankflow is when a river is full all the way up to its bank. It hasn't overtopped, it hasn't begun to go into its floodplain, but it's completely full. And it's a hydrologic term, bankflow with a double L. And under natural conditions, bankflow occurs in New England at roughly 1.2 to 1.6 times in a year. So it's happening less frequently than a year under natural conditions. You can see what's happening here, though, based on imperviousness of the watershed. The frequency is accelerating tremendously. And it's difficult for me to do this sideways, but at 50% imperviousness in an area we've got across here, we're almost up to bankflow occurring 6 times a year. So you can see the relationship of impervious area to essentially the amount of flooding that's going on within rivers themselves. The more urbanization, the more likely we're going to have rivers that are overtopping into their floodplains. If we've eliminated the floodplains, which is not unusual even in western Massachusetts, that water surges up above natural levels and really rolls down the river, creating the potential for all sorts of infrastructure problems. So again, this is on the left-hand side. We've got another typical graph of what's occurring. Again, time and discharge amount. The green lower section being natural conditions, and the higher peaking ones being different states of development, as you can pick out of here. Impacts of urbanization are very typical. This is a watershed that had 2 things happen to it. This is actually out here in western Massachusetts, a little west of here. And this was taken about 6 or 7 years ago. And the area gradient of this, about an 80 or 90 acre area, had been clear cut that drained directly into this. And 25 to 30 unit subdivision had been built also with the drainage running directly into this little stream. The next 25-year storm that came along basically blew out the stream. There's a lot of this sort of activity that has taken place, particularly in western Massachusetts. And this is all pre-tropical storm warning. But a lot of this is caused by this sort of thing. This is a shot from Chelmsford, the typical armoring that is intended to confine streams to within their channels. This is a little condo development, and the runoff from the condominiums was brought down into a drainage area here into a stream, and the first time a good rainstorm came along, it just ate right into the backyard. Again, these are mostly cases of small watersheds where the pre-development and post-development runoff have not been properly balanced. I'll talk a little bit about why that frequently happens in another 5 to 10 minutes. These are typical. You guys have seen a lot of these. This is one of my favorites. This is from Tioga County, Pennsylvania. But this is a 30-year period, same site, between 1965 and 95. The area of the area in the 1995 after 3 decades of development. Another example, 1982 to 2007. And of course, this goes on everywhere, and particularly in periods of boom, where we see this happening very rapidly. The catch with this sort of development happening is that the natural site had the ability to mitigate runoff to a certain quantity. We try to match that with development, and if we don't, something's going to have to give. The low points are going to take a larger slug of runoff, and there's going to be the potential for downstream impacts. So how do we manage drainage? Again, contemporary design attempts to balance pre- and post-development peak flows. Increased impervious area increases the volume of stormwater. As planners, you guys know that what you almost always see, particularly under the new master stormwater regs, is that developments match pre-development peaks, and they try to do so through a series of storms. Typically, we'll do so for a 2, 10, 25, 50, 100-year storm. What frequently doesn't occur, though, is that the volume is not mitigated, and particularly for small developments. So, impervious area is going to always increase volume. The two work together, so the peak by itself is not really sufficient. And we've addressed that with larger developments, but small developments don't do so, and cumulatively, in a given watershed, they're going to have their own impacts. So good design is going to mitigate both volume and increased peak flows, and we always strive to try to mimic the pre-development within natural streams. Some of the management techniques are both typical basins, like I show on the right, and then wet basins that may be vegetated on the left. Another graph that shows how these work. This particular site with urbanization without detention basins would peak very high and come through. And this is showing the controlled outflow from a detention basin. And this is always our goal right here. And that can be managed so that the basins or control devices modulate the flow depending on the goal of the development. So as I noted earlier, basins alone don't mimic natural recharge. Often we get into infiltration, and these are various structural devices that are used to infiltrate. Typically, perforated pipes might be used that are set in beds of gravel. Less likely today would be leaching pits, but it's going to. These are less likely because they have to be set so that they're above groundwater. And based on our knowledge of soils today, groundwater throughout Massachusetts tends to be fairly high when we read it accurately. It's not unusual to find that it's 2 or 3 feet. So if you've got these pits and they're 3 feet each, you have a typical 6-foot pit, you're going to have really deep groundwater to be able to use that sort of thing. So note that improper design can cause massive structural failures. This is in New Hampshire. I believe this was 2005. And what you're seeing here is the remnant of a culvert that came in under a dirt road. It was clearly undersized for the storm event, and the whole area collapsed. More examples of the same sort of thing. I lost a little text in here, but this is in New Hampshire, 2006. Isn't it amazing how much of this and how many examples we can show? This stuff just goes on all the time. And a lot of these are the result of, I note that these are the results of improper culvert design. But so many of these are not engineered. And by that I mean, there's a cascade of sort of historic stuff that goes on. On this particular road crossing, there was a 36-inch pipe. The 36-inch pipe was there because there had always been a 36-inch pipe. And the background on this was that this pipe had actually been replaced a few years before this flooding. It had been a metal corrugated pipe. It had rotted out. The DPW director replaced it with a single-side pipe. Nobody did a study. Nobody took a look at what there should be under that road, whether it should have been a pair of 36s or a pair of 48s or a pocket culvert. It was simply replaced. This goes on all over the place, from the most sophisticated towns to the smallest little towns in the state, with essentially the DPW director making these command decisions that in the long run very frequently cause massive damage afterwards. Floodplains are critical. So decreased floodplain storage alters stream dynamics. Stream base flow decreases in direct proportion to decreases in the floodplain. Stream velocity likewise increase as floodplains decrease. And that's not to mention the loss of wildlife habitat. A lot of the urbanization that has impacted streams throughout the state has caused streams to become disconnected from the floodplain. By that I mean streams have cut lower due to higher velocities and more frequent rainfall events. And so when we have massive flooding, the floodplains that used to be connected to the rivers are lost, forces the water downstream into the next community or into the next river that the stream connects to, and the subsequent downstream impacts are just greater. So again, we're sort of paying for the legacy of decades and decades of not really being sensitive to the way rivers work. Another point I want to make in this presentation is that we've got decades of using incorrect precipitation data. That can change now. And I note that the extreme precipitation for our region and state has been updated in the last year through a collaborative effort between Cornell and NRCS. This is really cool. This is a big, big deal. Okay, so I know that the precipitation website, if as planners you haven't seen this, you should. The data is very elegantly presented. I've got a few slides that are going to show what the site looks like. I'm going to come back to talking about why this is important. But engineers have, and I'm talking 98% of engineers in the state, have used an extreme precipitation atlas called TP40 for decades. It was issued in the mid-1960s, and it was issued by the U.S. Commerce Department, and it became the de facto Bible for civil engineers doing design work. It was only about 30 years later that we learned that TP40 was developed over a 40-year period by the federal government during a period of drought. Nobody knew it at the period, during the period. But this then became the design Bible for everybody to use. And we now know that it was wrong by about 20 to 25%, particularly for larger events. That's partly why, over the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, we've been saying, you guys have all heard this, I'm sure, wow, we had another 100-year storm. Or we had 200-year storms in the last 4 years. Or I mean, that's because people are measuring them based on TP40. So because of this problem, Cornell University began to study what was wrong and what was going wrong. And they came out with an atlas about 6 or 7 years ago that sort of blew away TP40. There was a lot of resistance within the engineering and development community to trying to use this new data because the new data meant that you had to build bigger culverts, essentially, bigger storm systems, bigger basins. So nobody wanted to go there. NRCS and Cornell then collaborated and went online with this data. This is the sort of thing that's available. This is a screenshot of this new site. And it's very, very easily used by almost anybody. It talks about exactly what I've been referring to here in the thing, and it lists the various features that are available. This is another major shot of the same site. And you can see how you can select the kind of data that you want. And it's tremendously user-friendly. It doesn't, almost anybody, even with the slightest amount of knowledge, can tap into this. You can go into the state map and you can click on what you want, where you want it, and it comes up and it'll give you the various storm events if you key in the information. It produces graphs, just like TP40 shows. This is a 100-year Worcester. It breaks it down, you can see by the years. Here's the 24-year storm, 48, so you can pick out the data as you need it. This is another pretty graphic I pulled off the same site. This is 100-year storms, 24-hour in Massachusetts, and you can sort of pick out through your work what the likelihood of high precip is going to be in a particular area. But this is a huge breakthrough tool in terms of both planning and civil engineering. And I try to encourage everybody that's doing review of projects to put the design engineer on the spot and ask them whether in fact they're using the latest storm data or whether they're relying on TP40. So this is a reiteration of what I talked about. Again, the storms that we thought under TP40 were going to be happening once every 50 or 100 years were happening as frequently as every 5.
Does TP40 stand for something? Is that
Technical paper.
Tom Petty.
So again, this is what I want to emphasize. The revised storm events for the 100 year are 25 to 30% larger than TP40. I would say that in the last 40 years in Massachusetts, 98% of all projects have been designed for TP40. So you can see what we have is we have undersized structures throughout the entire state for virtually every project. So again, the key thing is that real-world larger storm events require larger culverts, basins, and more robust mitigation. So I'm coming back to rivers. They're always the final recipients of stormwater discharge. Use of incorrect rainfall data guarantees it's going to be difficult balancing pre-and post. And increased stormwater flows exacerbate swollen rivers and heighten impacts. The planning encourages preserving the entirety of the river. That is this channel and the historic horizontal extent of the central floodplain. And then this is an obvious. So we're going to do sort of a couple quick photographs of natural corridors versus unnatural. This is the west branch of the Swift River. And this is the Chickley River in Hawley. This shot was taken about a week and a half ago. The Chickley River in Hawley looked just like this until late fall of last year. And Hurricane Tropical Storm came in and took out the road through here. And Hawley actually became impassable for a few weeks. They had helicopter supplies into the town residents. And so the selectmen took it upon themselves without permit to clean up the river. And they started at the river intersection about 3 miles upstream from here and ended about 2 miles downstream from here. And basically, channel line is deepened and straightened 5 miles further. What will happen now, because they deepened the river and disconnected it from a lot of the floodplain, is that the next major storm event will rip all this out entirely and cause far, far worse damage. The river previously had been right about this level through here, and to get rid of the various riffles and pools in here, they simply deepened it by about 4 feet. So the connection that the river had to the floodplain of the here is now gone. So their attempt to get rid of the water and get it downstream as quickly as they could will have consequences in the future, I'm sure. About 3 miles from here, the Chickley connects to the Deerfield River. And I happened to go by and take a look at the confluence when I was taking these pictures a couple of weeks ago. And you can see how this is sort of muddy. The Deerfield was running crystal clear, and where it intersected, it was just incredibly turbid. And from what I understand, talking to a couple of my friends who are there in the area who are hydrologists, they've been making the same observations since this work is done, and it's run like this since the work was done. It's muddy and dirty. It may do so for years, because all of this material in here is not natural. It was brought in. It was not washed. It's not clean. It's a disaster. Here's a shot of the Chickley before the work was done. You can see how it was a typical little meandering. So very quickly, the ecological relationship of river floodplains and wildlife. Rivers are used as corridors essentially by wildlife as well. And when we begin to make the change to the river system, we interrupt and disconnect that. So rivers represent this sort of ecological magic. They really are the heart and soul of not only wetlands, but wildlife habitat. And we need to be conscious of that when we take a look at all of these little incremental changes that would lead to the landscape, because each one of them ends up dropping water eventually into some nearby river. I think any further comments I have would be repeating myself. So thank you very much.